Pamela? Pamela?
What now?
When I met Orwell for lunch and he gave me the manuscript for Animal Farm, the month, roughly?
July. The Christmas decorations were still up in the office because you hadn't paid the cleaner.
By July, Orwell's manuscript had been turned down by 3 rivals. But I knew that a truly great publisher can spot even the roughest of diamonds. What's that?
Sandwiches and coffee.
I'm not hungry.
Oh, come on. You of all people should know that the starving author is a terrible cliché. Speaking of which, how is the memoir going?
Pamela. 30 years on, I still wonder what the world would have been like if I hadn't recognised Animal Farm for the masterpiece it is.
Had I, Frederick Warburg, in some small way, single-handedly won the war, ushered in the nuclear age...
Pamela, please. What was that?
What? I didn't hear anything. Look, if you must write another volume about your career, you could be a little more...
More what?
Well, candid than last time.
Go on.
Instead of grinding on about Orwell, you could mention some other clients.
You mean Thomas Mann, Kafka, H.G. Wells?
No, Freddie. What about a certain Tibetan author?
I'm sure nobody wants to read about him.
He might be the only thing people want to read about.
I should press on, old girl.
I'm just saying that maybe you should think about writing about him.
The 50s. A pale and shell-shocked decade. Sometimes it seemed as if colour itself was rationed. That's rather good. In a few years, the Beatles would be off to India and the Stones would be, well, stoned. But back then, fish fingers and wipe-down formica were still considered exotic. The public craved escapism, fantastical foreign adventures. Of course, I was best known for publishing highbrow works. But once in a while, you have to give the public what they want. My offices off the Strand, April the 15th, 1955. The day my editor, David Farrer, first introduced me to that strangest of names.
T.Lobsang Rampa.
T.Lobsang Rampa. Well, it's memorable. What's the T stand for?
Search me.
And it's what? A travelogue?
He's a Tibetan Lama.
Ah.
He was raised and trained in the country's holiest temples.
Pages?
Just the first 100. Here.
I'll head off early, have a quick look at them in the park.
But our accountant's due any minute.
Is he really? I had no idea.
Freddie!
I sat on a bench on Primrose Hill, not far from my flat, and began to read. From the very first page, it was clear this was something special, something magical. Rampa explained how he was born into an aristocratic family in the forbidden city of Lhasa, and how on his 7th birthday he was sent off up the valley to beg his way into service at the Chakpuri Lamasery. The early chapters were utterly bewitching. When this frightened young boy drew his robes tightly around him against the icy winds, I shivered with him. When his knocking on the monastery doors was ignored, I felt his aching loneliness. For 2 days, he sat cross-legged in prayer, scared and alone, his only company, the yaks, trudging across the meadows below. He could hear the chanting of the monks inside, the low grumble of the great temple trumpets. With little food and water, he became dangerously weak, a pitiful sight. The snow collecting in his upturned hand. Then, finally, he had passed the first of many tests. I held my breath. I was about to become one of the first Westerners to read the secrets of Tibet's holiest temple. I could barely wait to tell David. In a newfound spirit of adventure, I arranged to meet him in an Italian coffee bar.
Thank you. What's that?
It's a cappuccino. Just try it. So, the poor little chap has to sit there for 2 days before they even let him in. The hardships he must suffer before... Oh, good God, man, if the froth upsets you that much, scoop it off. So what do they want for it?
1,000.
I bet they do. They know they're onto a winner.
We can't afford it.
We can't not afford it. This could be huge. I have a feeling about this.
It's a lot of money for a feeling.
It's a literary first. A Tibetan Lama's life in his own words.
But Heinrich Harre's 7 years in Tibet is still selling. Doesn't that cover the same ground?
Compared to Rampa, Harre's a tourist. This will make 7 years in Tibet look like a day trip to Margate. So when can we get some more pages mailed over?
Mailed over?
From Tibet, man. Tibet.
Oh, no, forgot to say he's living in London now.
Really? That's fantastic. Oh, I'm going to meet a real Tibetan Lama.
Doesn't even have a title.
I've been thinking about that. I'm going to suggest the third eye.
I don't follow.
Oh, this bit is incredible. On his 8th birthday, he has an operation that releases the power to read people's auras. The opening of the third eye. First, they apply a herbal compress to his head. Then a couple of monks pin him down while they bring out a silver hand drill. They sterilize it over a flame, line it up between his eyebrows, and start turning. Slowly, the drill works its way through tissue, then bone, and finally, the slightest crack. They stop drilling. A key has been turned. A door unlocked. Then they leave a splinter of wood in there for days afterwards, probably to stop infection and leaking fluids.
Oh.
Have you had a look at the menu?
Would you believe I've lost my appetite?
Imagine being able to read people's auras. I bet he's a dab hand at poker.
Freddie?
Yes, dear.
When you said you'd booked a romantic dinner, I thought we might discuss something other than that blasted manuscript.
Oh, no, you're right. Not another mention. Tonight is about us.
Good.
So, anything take your fancy?
Not yet. You?
I have this strange hankering for a vegetable curry. I wonder if they might be able to rustle one up.
Are you sure? You know it disagrees with you.
Maybe I'm feeling reckless. Now, what drink would go with curry?
I don't know. Beer?
No, they don't drink alcohol.
And who might they be? I should have known. You just wanted to see if this place was good enough for your new pet llama.
Honestly, how could you suggest...
Freddie!
No, you're right.
You know, I think my appetite just returned with a vengeance, along with a sudden craving for the best champagne.
I felt a little guilty at involving Pamela in my dress rehearsal. And a few days later, I succumbed to another feeling I rarely experience. I was nervous. By this stage, David and I were both desperate to get Rampa to sign the contract. But what if my aura gave me away? I arrived early to try and gain a tactical advantage, but he was already there. He wasn't hard to identify. A small, bald, stocky figure in brown robes with a large nose that dominated his round face. And there, of course, a neat, circular scar between his eyebrows. There was something I wasn't prepared for, though.
Mr. Warburg, over here.
That voice. Hello. Your Holiness.
Please, be seated.
First of all, can I just say your book is quite beguiling.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Writing it was a boring and painful experience.
Oh, right. Well, I should say my firm would be honoured to buy the European rights on its completion.
What did you have in mind?
Well, first a mid-scale release in Britain to build up word of mouth. Then...
I meant to eat.
I see. Well, from personal experience, I can tell you that vegetarian curry and saffron rice is very good. To be honest, it went through me like the crest a run. But you fellows are probably more used to that sort of thing.
Mr. Warburg, I saw quite enough rice in the Japanese prison camps, where they indulge their fondness for water torture. My voice was permanently damaged in the process.
Really? I hadn't noticed.
Please, don't pretend. I know how I must sound to you. Since then, I have vowed never to let rice pass my lips again.
I'm so sorry. I had no idea.
No matter. There is one thing I would love to eat. You can't beat fish and chips in newspaper, eaten outdoors.
I couldn't agree more, Your Holiness.
Oh, please, call me Lobsang.
Yes, he is aware what the outstanding balance is. He'll call you back. Thank you for your interest in Secker and Warburg.
Morning.
There you are. So what happened?
Let's see. Bills. Oh, Reader's Digest.
Freddie?
What?
The contract, man, the contract.
Oh, that. Signed on the dotted line.
Of course, I never doubted you for a second.
Really? I did. Now, let's get this book published and introduce the world to the third eye.
Hello, Heinrich Harrop.
Hey, Heinrich. It's Elliot McRae.
Who?
You're kidding. Elliot McRae at E.P. Dutton. I published 7 years in Tibet for you, gee.
Yes. I couldn't hear because of the record. I'll turn it down. What can I do for you?
I got something I want you to authenticate. The memoirs of a Tibetan Lama from Lasar.
What's his name?
T.Lobsang Rampa. You heard of him?
No, but I think you'll find my book covers everything a reader may wish to know about Tibet.
Sure, but this is more of an insider's perspective.
Truly.
Straight from the yak's mouth, so to speak. So you'll take a look?
Any friend of Tibet is a friend of mine.
Thanks, Heinrich. So long.
So long.
What are you doing?
Lighting an incense stick. It's supposed to create an aura of peace and tranquility. Stupid thing. There.
Oh, it smells like a Turkish brothel. I'll open a window.
I also got these for the back garden. What do you think?
Yes. So what did you two have for lunch?
Fish and chips. Meaning?
Nothing. It just seems a bit odd, that's all.
Well, it put him in such a good mood, he signed the contract.
Oh.
Well, I had to be quick before someone else snapped it up. Anyway, you haven't even read it.
I have. You left a copy on your desk.
What did you think? The fragrance of the Far East just drifts off the page, doesn't it?
To be honest, I got a slightly earthier smell.
There it is.
What?
The knee-jerk cynicism.
I just think there's something not quite right about it.
Oh, and you know this because...
I don't. Call it a hunch.
Why are you doing this, Pamela? Why can't you just be happy for me?
Sorry. Do you know how hard it is to argue with someone holding wind chimes?
Right, I'll go and hang these up. Pamela may have done her best to sow some seeds of doubt, then dump grade A compost on them, but I wasn't going to be put off. Then David greeted me with some unwelcome news.
I just heard on the grapevine. Apparently 3 other publishers had already turned down Rampa's manuscript before we were offered it.
Did they say why?
Maybe the fee was too high. It was a huge fee.
Relax. Countless great works have slipped through the fingers of short-sighted publishers. Anything else?
Oh, yes. E.P. Dutton have bought the American rights.
That's fantastic. Why didn't you start with the good news? No, this way round's better. I happen to be good friends with Dutton's president. What time is it in New York?
Late. Maybe leave it until
It's
tomorrow.
fine. Stop fussing, David.
better be good.
Elliot, it's Freddie.
Freddie.
Freddie Warburg.
Oh, hey, Freddie. I'm guessing you're calling this unholy hour regarding a certain Tibetan mystic man?
I think we're on to a winner, Elliot.
Oh, sure. This whole Zen thing is gonna be big business. Yeah, once the last pages come in and everything's been verified, we're all set.
I'm sorry? Verified?
You didn't think we could publish something like this without checking a few facts, did you?
Oh, no, of course not.
I got a panel of experts together to give it the once-over. I'll keep you posted.
Excellent.
So what's he like, this Rampa guy?
Very Tibetan. A bit sensitive, though.
Oh, don't worry. We won't spook him.
Try not to.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm gonna go back to sleep now. Bye, Freddie.
Bye, Elliot.
Everything all right?
Dandy.
Good. Now, the cheque you were going to give me for the paper supply.
Yes, all in hand.
Not my hand, it isn't.
I might head off early, read a few more chapters.
Freddie! Freddie!
Thank you for meeting me, Mr. Burgess. You and your detective agency come highly recommended.
Oh, that's nice. So, what exactly do you want me to do?
You've no doubt heard of my book, 7 Years in Tibet?
No. Any good?
But it's not for me to say.
I'm more of a Raymond Chandler man. Mickey Spillane.
Fascinating. I would like you to investigate the author of this.
The first-hand account of the early life of a Tibetan Lama. What's the problem?
It's lies. Every word of it.
Okay. How can you be so sure?
How? Mr. Burgess, I escaped a British detention camp in India in 1944. I trekked 800 miles to the holy Tibetan city of Lhasa. There, I was invited to tutor the 14th Dalai Lama.
14th? They get through him, don't they?
I know Tibet. This fairy tale is not it. I represent a dozen prominent Tibetans, academics and explorers. We will not stand by and let this ancient, peaceful culture be desecrated like this.
So, what exactly do you want me to do?
I want you to find everything there is to know about this T.Lobsang Rampa.
All right.
Good. I want him crushed.
I decided there was no time to waste. I climbed into my gleaming Ford Anglia and squeezed the accelerator. She growled with pleasure. 55 miles per hour we tore through the night. A head full of questions, a glove box full of travel mints. Signs reared up out of the gloom. Beware, dangerous curves. I smiled to myself, remembering a certain waitress at that roadside cafe in Didcot. But there was no time for that now. I had a case to crack.
Hello, David.
Freddie? You okay, old chap? You're as white as a sheet.
David, you've travelled in the Far East, haven't you?
A bit. Go on.
Well, I guess some of their customs are a bit strange.
Cut to the chase, Freddie.
Right. Rampa's agent just sent over the latest chapter. Well, let me set the scene. Our young hero has now made his way up to the Chang Tang Highlands on a yak. He's on an expedition to learn about herbs, and as a bit of a treat for all his hard work, the elder monks let him do a bit of kite flying.
Sounds charming.
It does, doesn't it? But these aren't your common or garden kites. Oh, no. They have wings 10 feet long, and in the middle is a box made of silk and wood. So they take this giant kite to the edge of the ravine. Then a young monk climbs inside. The others start heaving on the rope, and up he goes. They feed the rope out, and the kite soars even higher. Then the monk loses his grip, falls out, and is dashed on the rocks thousands of feet below. Rampa says the monk's fluttering red robes made him look like a falling autumn leaf.
That's a nice touch.
Oh, David!
Sorry. So what are you saying, Fred?
It's ridiculous!
Which bit?
All of it! OK, maybe you could build a kite big enough to lift a small monk, but why would you?
You're going to have to answer it.
Hello?
Hi, Freddy.
Elliot, how are you?
They're not happy, Freddy.
Who isn't?
Who do you think? The goddamn panel of experts.
What are they saying?
One thinks Rampa might have been there, but the others think it's all baloney. One of them is furious. We're not publishing.
What? But we'll lose our advance.
Chalk it up to experience. You can take the hit.
Well, yes, of course we can. If you could just let me talk to him first, maybe...
It's over, Freddy.
You know what? I'll go round and see him right now. Get to the bottom of this.
You can't. He's gonna live in Dublin Bay.
What?
Jeez, Freddy, haven't you heard?
Heard what?
Rampa's dying.
I grilled Rampa's agent, but he was sticking with the story that his client was exactly who he said he was. So, here are my top theories about our mysterious monk. 1. He's the real deal. 2. He's a Tibetan, but a minor royal showing off. A kind of Tibetan Princess Margaret. 3. He just got bored and started making things up. I crunched the travel mint and turned the Anglia for London, hoping things might become clearer once I reached the big smoke.
Come on! Come on! Yes! Yes! No! No, 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 no!
I'm not sure this is as scientific as it could be.
I just have to scale up the surface area, factor in the weight of a small monk, adjust for wind speed...
Freddie, just stop. You're driving yourself mad. I'm sure there's a perfectly rational explanation to all this.
You mean something that'll explain the latest chapter when he meets...
Meets who?
Oh, never mind.
Freddie?
He meets a yeti. OK.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's just... you have got to get that advance back. We could go round together. You hold him down while I beat the living...
He's dying, Pamela.
Well, that saves me the trouble of killing him. Have they said...
Coronary thrombosis, apparently. What am I going to do, Pamela?
You want me to tell you?
If you could.
You'll do the right thing. And I'll support whatever crazy, boneheaded decision you make.
Okay. Right, let's try one more time.
Okay.
If it flies, I'll publish and be damned. Ready?
Uh-huh. Oh, it's picking up! Now or never, darling!
Ready? 1, 2, 3!
I let myself into Rampa's old Bayswater apartment. The single room had a faint smell of sandalwood and a stronger stench of despair. His neighbours had proved as easy to unlock as his front door. The old rascal had been shacked up with his wife, Sanrab, and some dame called Sheila Rouse, a wealthy banker's wife who changed her name to Buttercup and swapped the Mayfair mansion for this dive. All above the sheets, though, according to her ex-husband. And God knows, when it came to looks, Rampa was no Montgomery Clift, which meant she must really believe him.
Pamela?
Oh, why not?
And a splash for you, David.
Tastes expensive.
That, my dear David, is the taste of success.
I wondered why I didn't recognise it.
Should I make a speech?
I wouldn't.
I think people are enjoying themselves.
Thank you! Thank you all for coming and sharing our quite remarkable success with the Third Eye.
We may be a small and modest firm.
We may be a small and modest firm, but over the years we've managed to attract names such as George Orwell, Franz Kafka, H.G. Wells, Thomas Mann. I could go on.
And you will.
And now we can add another name to that distinguished list. David, would you... Not only do we have a runaway bestseller on our hands, I predict we'll soon hit 100,000 sales. Oh, yeah. Yes. But the critics adore it too. I've a few reviews here. The Times Literary Supplement said The Third Eye comes close to being a work of art, while The Observer calls it extraordinary and exciting. Freddie, I think you should take this. It's probably foils. They will keep selling out. Hello, Frederick Warburg speaking.
Enjoying your little party?
I'm sorry, who is this?
Heinrich Herrer. I trust you know who I am.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Warburg, I have read this Third Eye. It is the work of a fraudster, and you are a fool for publishing it.
Well, I'm happy you bought a copy, Mr. Harrow.
Oh, no, I read it long before publication. I was on the panel of experts.
Yes, I rather thought you might have been.
At least Duttons had the sense to drop it.
Well, I stand by the book, Mr. Harrow, and let me remind you, there are experts out there who believe it's genuine. More independent experts.
What do you mean?
Tell me, Mr. Harrow, how is 7 years in Tibet selling these days?
How dare you! Your book is complete scheisse! Sie sind ein Trottel!
Ah, Mr. Harrow, what about a bit of that serenity you're so famous for?
Serenity? I'll show you serenity!
No, Mr. Harrow, I'm losing you.
No, Mr. Warburg, you're not rid of me yet. There is one more chapter to your book, and it is almost written.
Problem? Just another well-wisher.
Come on, Freddie, get on the end!
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be shortly arriving in Dublin. Yes, shortly arriving in Dublin.
On my visit to Rampa's London flat, I'd found old bills from a previous address in Weybridge. A Tibetan Lama smack in the middle of suburbia. Surely someone would remember him. And boy, did they. By the time I'd left, I pretty much got the whole story. Or at least one side of it. There was just one final port of call.
Hello!
Oh. Hello!
Magnificent view!
If the clouds clear, you can see right across the bay.
It's breathtaking.
Are you lost?
I was. Until I read this.
Oh, you're one of them.
Them?
Fans. We don't like visitors.
Please. I have so many questions for the great man.
I must get back to him.
Wait. How did you meet the Lama?
It was 4 years ago. I was living in London. One day I went down to the garage and there he was.
Ooh. What was he doing in there?
Collecting spiders to feed his myna bird.
Right. And did he say anything?
He didn't need to. It was as if he just knew what I was thinking.
And what were you thinking?
That life would never be the same again. I have to go.
I'd love to meet him.
I'm sorry. He's not a well man.
But bought chocolate cake! I'm so sorry to arrive unannounced like this.
Anyone who brings chocolate cake is most welcome. It is my favourite thing. My second favourite thing is my tape recorder. And before you ask, my third favourite is my dear cat, Mrs. Fifi Grey Whiskers. Oh dear. Fifi says the cake is not to her liking. Too moist. And that she'd like me to have her slice.
Do you understand what your cat's saying?
Oh, of course. We communicate telepathically.
I was wondering,
if I could ask you a few questions about your book.
Oh, that awful thing. I only did it to provide for San Rob and Buttercup. And, of course, pay for my research.
Research?
I can read human auras. You people cannot. My plan is to design a camera that lets non-clairvoyants see what I see. Oh. Imagine, police could see who was going to commit a crime before it happened. Oh. Doctors could make early diagnoses, though it would, of course, be too late for me.
Oh. Can I take you, please?
Thank you. Though I may find the strength to finish it later.
Could you read my aura?
Oh, my powers are somewhat diminished by my illness.
Please. It mean a lot to me.
Very well. Come closer. Yes, I see. Oh. Your aura is predominantly yellow. That indicates you are a warm and playful man.
And if I had bad intentions?
It would be green. Oh. Now, I really must rest.
I was wondering if you could do something else for me.
Oh?
This is a Tibetan manuscript. I was hoping you might be able to translate a line or two.
No.
No?
During the war, the Japanese tortured me for Tibet's secrets. I mentally blocked out all knowledge of my native tongue. Now just the sight of it gives me terrible pain.
Come on, just one line.
Keep it away from me! No! Buttercup!
That's it. You can't read orders or Tibetan and you definitely can't speak to your cat.
I know who sent you. Rivals, jealous of my success.
Lama? What have you done to him?
I just wanted answers. The name's Burgess.
I don't care who you are. Get out.
You don't have to stay here, Sheila. He's not who you think he is.
I know exactly who he is. He's a kind, generous, remarkable man. And the name's Buttercup.
I'll just stick my card through the letterbox in case you change your mind. All right.
Oh, this is priceless. How did he think he could get away with it? I wish I could have been there when you confronted him.
Wasn't as much fun as you'd think. Felt a bit sorry for him.
Sorry for him?
He's very ill. Didn't seem like a bad person, just a bit eccentric.
I thought I hired a private detective, not a psychologist.
Well, you've got me findings. But you know, everyone makes mistakes.
And what do you mean by that?
I'm just saying that we've all done things that we might later regret. Here, Harry.
You have your fee?
I do.
Then our business is concluded.
Good. I tipped my hat over my brow, thumbed my coat collar, and stepped out onto the station platform and into the cold, cold night. The air was stale, but compared to the cafe it tasted sweet. My Ford Anglia was in for repairs, so I decided to jump on the next train out of town. Destination unknown.
That'll be the 7:30 to Newport Pagnell. Sorry, sir, I couldn't help overhearing.
Oh, thanks.
Hello, Frederick Warburg, publisher extraordinaire.
This is Hugh Medlicott.
Hugh
Medlicott from the Daily Mail.
Good evening, Mr. Medlicott, and what can I do for you?
You are the publisher of The Third Eye?
I have that pleasure. But if it's an interview with the Lama you're after, I'm afraid you'll have to make do with me.
How does it feel to be responsible for the biggest literary hoax of the century?
Now, hang on, no. I mean, the thing is that actually, steady on.
Can I quote you on that?
Absolutely not, no. I have nothing to say at this stage.
Oh, that's fine. We've more than enough to cover the front page tomorrow.
Wait.
Goodbye, Mr. Warburg.
No, wait. Hugh, isn't it? I don't suppose there's any chance I could see your evidence. Just a courtesy from one professional to another. Lord knows we both know the pressures of producing bestsellers.
You turn out a bestseller once in a blue moon, Mr. Warburg. We do it 5 days a week. Good evening.
It's Lama Drama, as the best-selling author of Tibetan tome The Third Eye is revealed to be a hoax. The man known to thousands of readers as T.Lobsang Rampa is in fact Cyril Hoskin, a plumber's son from Devon who's never visited the mystical mountain realm. The fraudster is now hiding in a clifftop cottage near Dublin, along with his wife and Mrs. Sheila Rouse, once a gay member of West End society. Mr. Hoskin has yet to emerge, but you can be sure we'll be there when he does.
I say, excuse me, coming through. Oh, Freddie? Should I answer that? No! Oh, I see. Quite the scrum out there. Is that why you're
hiding under the desk? Yes, that's right.
I suppose you've seen the paper. Who'd have thought it? Cyril Hoskin from Devon. Still, fantastic publicity for the book.
No, we're ruined. Our integrity and credibility gone.
I suppose that's one way of looking at it. Oh, look. It says what the T stands for, you know. T.Lobsang Rampa.
Oh, go on.
It's Tuesday.
No.
From the Tibetan tradition of naming children after the day they were born.
Oh!
Freddie?
Oh, hello, Pamela.
Hello, David. Is Freddie around? Ah, there you are. Come on. Budge up.
Oh, I'll give you a moment.
You read it then?
Despite you buying every copy from our newsagents, yes.
Well, let's hear it.
Hear what?
I told you so. You knew from the start.
Well, yes, but I'm not going to rub it in. The Daily Mail is doing a terrific job for me.
Sometimes I wonder why you stick with me. I'm vain and foolish. Feel free to jump in at any point if you disagree, Pamela.
I will.
Oh. You know, that book probably says more about me than it does about T.Lobsang Rampa.
Cyril Hoskin, dear.
Yes, Cyril Hoskin.
Freddie, you are vain, and at times you're foolish, but you're never boring.
Freddie, you'll want to see this. Should I pop under there?
No. We're coming out.
What is it?
A telegram from Dublin. Hi, Freddie. Stop. Book is still true. Stop. Been framed, but no oil painting. Rampa.
I think it might be an apology. I'm not sure.
If you wanted to go over there.
No. I think I've had my fill of the spotlight. As expected, half of Fleet Street had decamped to Dublin Bay in the hope of catching a glimpse of Cyril Hoskin. They even used a periscope to try to get a look at him on his deathbed. It was nothing short of a siege. Hoskin's wife locked herself in the bathroom, while Buttercup kept a vigil at his bedside.
Vultures. Soon they'll have a real corpse to pick over.
Oh, Lama, if only you could speak to them. Tell them the truth.
I am too weak. I cannot leave this bed.
Lama, what is it?
Oh, of course. Fetch my tape recorder. Quickly.
Please! I have something to say. As you know, the Lama is too ill to speak to you in person. Please, listen to me. On this tape recorder is a statement that will explain everything. It will, I fear, be his last public statement. Come closer. His voice is very weak.
Members of the press, it is time you knew my true identity. Am I, as they say, Cyril Hoskin? Well, yes, and no. One day, when Mr. Hoskin was in his garden in Weybridge, he saw an owl in a tree and decided to photograph it. Climbing up the tree to get a better picture, he lost his grip, fell and knocked himself unconscious. It was then that my spirit, the spirit of T.Lobsang Rampa, a Lama trained at the Chokpari monastery, entered his body. Mr. Hoskin didn't mind. He was tired of life and Weybridge, and gladly gave his human form to me. If you want to know more, read The Third Eye. Goodbye.
Is that it?
I believe so.
And that was his last word on the subject. The assembled press, a little stunned, drifted back to the mainland. The Lama drama was soon knocked off the headlines. But David was right. Despite or because of the bad publicity, The Third Eye sold faster than ever before. It remains the most successful book on Tibetan culture, written by a man who didn't even own a passport. I should also mention that 7 Years in Tibet sold well too, though Heinrich Harrer was tainted by revelations of his Nazi party past. A photo was discovered of him wearing an SS uniform on his wedding day. Pamela?
You yelled?
I thought you'd taken those wind chimes down.
I did. Listen.
Oh, right.
By the way, can you promise me that this is your last autobiography?
Yes, of course.
Good. I was worried you were going for Rampa's record.
Oh, I should probably mention that. Despite claiming to be on his deathbed, Rampa lived another 22 years and published a further 18 books.
No, Mr. Warburg. You must be more accurate. It is 19 if you include Living with the Lama, though that was dictated to me by Mrs. Fifi Grey Whiskers.
Go away. This is my autobiography. Further memoirs showed how he'd survived the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima and travelled across the stars in his own spaceship.
It wasn't my spaceship. I was abducted.
Honestly, will you please be quiet?
She's coming back.
Freddie, there's a funny-looking cat in the garden.
Funny-looking?
It has this strange mark between its eyes, like a scar. Shall we let it in?
Better not. Once they're in, they never leave.
In The Third Eye and Private Eye by David Lemon and Mark Eccleston. Frederick Warburg was played by David Haig, Pamela by Christine Absalom, Harrer by Ben Crow, and David by Patrick Brennan. Clifford Burgess was Joe Sims, Rampa, Don Gillet, Buttercup, Susie Riddell, and McCrae was Robert Blythe. The director was Mark Beebe.